Hey everyone, welcome to the Slice of Construction podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Joining me today is the co-founder and CEO of Mercator AI, Chloe Smith.
Hey, Jared.
Chloe, how's it going?
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. And you and I were laughing a little bit because you're from Calgary and I have no idea where that even is. I know it's in Canada. For those that also feel they have no idea where that is, please enlighten us.
I like to call us the Texas of the North. We're raised on oil and gas up here, but we are. If you know where Vancouver is, we're like a 14-hour drive east and smack dab
Oh
in the
yeah.
middle of the prairies.
Okay. So it really is
Yeah,
Texas in the middle of everything. Cool. Okay. Um, Well, I'm really excited to chat with you. I've started doing research a couple of weeks ago about what your background and what you're building here, and um, I'm just so excited about what's going on in the construction space right now. It seems like we have lots of young companies really trying to work with the large construction companies that have been around for so long and helping them innovate. So let's start off with tell us a little bit about your background, and then I'll ask you the question I ask everyone, which is so don't go into the company yet. Just tell us about you first.
sure. Oh man, I have a meandering background. I always say. I have a degree in public relations, of all things. I came out of university. We have university in Canada, which is probably like your colleges. Came out of university, started building websites, got into analytics as a result, went into marketing for agriculture, started building analytics departments to better understand the impact of our efforts, and then found my way in a global marketing and advertising agency where I had the opportunity to be a head of innovation and effectively build products that came to mind. I had a really amazing leadership team that kind of gave me carte blanche to build what I wanted. And as a result, started building business development products. I had come from a construction family, but never thought I'd go into it, and always entrepreneurial. I started a residential cleaning company to pay my way through school. Uh, Built several companies since, none of which have been as successful as Mercator. And Mercator was really kind of that first big bet on myself, I would say.
So let's say you're walking down the street. Someone asks, "What is Mercator?" What do you say to them?
Well, we are AI powered business development for commercial contractors. So we work with general contractors, typically in the mid to large size firms, and we primarily help them with business development and getting in front of projects really early, from low rise multifamily through to light industrial.
And why is this such a problem for these
Oh,
folks?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, construction's a black box. Anybody will tell you that, right? If the clients aren't working with you, if the spend's not happening with you, you really don't know what's happening outside your four walls. And so that's really, the genesis of Mercator came from honestly listening to my dad have conversations at the dinner table about how his clients are the relationships that he's built and the clients that he has are really based off of the information he can broker, and the value that he can bring. And so what happens when he retires out, right? What happens when the organization wants to take a different path? It's very, very difficult to build up that kind of client base. And so how do you do that in a more digital age with more competition coming in because you have more foreign investors entering different markets? You do that with Mercator. You don't use it. It's not a headcount problem at that point. You got to think about it as a data problem. How do you scale your people? Fewer people are going into construction, so you need to find more effective ways to take the people you have and make them, supercharge them, force multiply them with AI.
What was your like eureka moment before starting this where you're like, I need to start this? Like it's what and I know it's probably not just a one, it's never just usually one conversation, one piece of information you read, like right, one thing that your dad says that you're like, all right, I'll do it. But if you had to kind of signal that one final push where you're like, all right, I'm doing it, what was that?
So I had been building business development tools for our marketing agency. and specifically ones that mapped markets, because every time we jumped into a new market, and I mean, we would pitch like um, synthetic oil companies and then turn around and pitch healthcare and then turn around and pitch, you know, consumer products. So you had to really quickly understand a new market. And in building a product that helped our business development teams do that very, very quickly, really mapping out markets with the data that we had to describe them. And I'm talking about understanding just, competitive landscape, share of voice, what the customer was thinking about the brand. I started to realize that there's a huge opportunity for something like this outside of the marketing and advertising space. And keep in mind, like, I come from a world that is, so on the cutting edge of digital and data and adoption. Um, I really wanted to go after a super unsexy industry and help transform it. And that didn't, construction didn't jump off the page immediately for me. It was really, we ended up spending a lot of time speaking to companies from healthcare and manufacturing and transportation, construction, insurance, finance. And as a result, kind of construction was the one that came out and said, look, we're not investing in data scientists yet. We're not investing in data analysts, but we need ways to become much more um, data forward and data driven compared to what we've been so far. And so as a result, we started to build proof of concepts in that market.
When you're booking demos and selling, what has been the biggest? There's always that on your end, right? There's always maybe a frustration point. Like, what is it the piece that you really want the people that want to book a demo with you, like these key stakeholders? What do you want them to know before taking that step, right? Maybe there's something you can educate them with before they click that button to book a demo. I guess what should they be knowing?
I think it comes down to, what are you trying to understand, or what are you trying to shift in your organization, and having a really clear goal. One of the challenges that I find with tech adoption and why it fails so often is because companies don't have very clear outcomes of what they want to chase or what they want to, impact in their organizations. And so I think especially in the business development space, like, what is it truly that you're having a problem with right now? What's the challenge that you're facing? And is AI potentially a solution for that, or is it more of, how you're honestly collating your data, or is it a function of, you don't have the right team members in the right place? Like, what is truly the problem in your business development, or the challenge that you're having in business development right now? And is it something that you think data can solve it with? I don't really think, we don't often find ourselves in a situation where our customers are coming in uneducated, so we tend to have a pretty good conversation with them about, they already know their problems and they know what they want to do. They need to accelerate, the amount of work that they're putting through the door, as well as make sure that they're not chasing ghosts. A lot of the time, the very first thing our customers experience using Mercator is, I've unqualified so many projects that would have gone nowhere. And that's the cost savings, right? Like, instant time saving. And then on top of that, now you're starting to dig into, okay, well, Mercator's now finding me projects I would have never known about with clients I've never talked to before. And now I'm able to start building educated conversations. So it's really a shift of, one, are you a relationship based organization, and you have a lot of maybe legacy folks in place that are, not interested in learning new tricks. I think that's one of the challenging things with new tech adoption. Um, but then also, are you trying to solve specific problems that you think that technology can fix? It's not a great answer, but frankly, I think that's where we don't tend to have conversations with our customers that tend to be frustrating. They tend to come to us and understand exactly what they need.
Well, I want to give you and your team kudos, by the way, because I immediately knew what you do when I went to your website, which I'd say is not the case for 98% of any company selling anything right now. So that's a huge check mark, right? And I really liked one of the things that you offer these free lead lists. Can you, like, for anyone that's unaware of this, can you talk about, maybe why you're doing this and what they'd actually get if they did subscribe to like these free lead lists that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a list actually that we update, and it's just a kind of a collated version of, some of the leads you might be able to find in Mercator. It's light information, but what you're able to do is if you're a general contractor and you're looking for commercial projects or industrial projects or multifamily projects, and you want to see what's out there, you can subscribe to our free lead list. And what will happen is on a weekly basis, you'll get an updated list of projects that are net new, that are in the earliest stages of process at the city, and are usually at that kind of 25% design mark where the designs are about 25% completed. There's still lots of room from a design build perspective to get involved with the developer or the architect, and really help shape that project. And so in that case, when it comes down to contact information, you'll see companies that either you already know about, you already have relationships with. But in the case where you don't, you can always reach out to us directly, and we might be able to get you in front of the right contacts at the right time. A lot of the times our customers, use us as an extension of their research team. And that's not something that we widely put out there for the free lead list, but it's definitely something that, if you're interested in the work that we're able to put in front of you, then yes, absolutely, we will help you 100% get to those conversations faster.
Now, Chloe, you've been running the company for a few years now. What's something that you know now that you wish you knew then?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, Jared.
And notice how I said one, because it's probably a million things, right?
I'm like, Jared,
Yeah.
what would you have known now that you're a seasoned podcaster? Oh man, what would I want to have known?
You just can pick one, because I know there's a million things. Like, I used to always say this, right? So before having the podcast, my background was I was primarily in the healthcare space, and I had a company. Was our goal was to be kind of like the TurboTax for licensing and verifying healthcare professionals. And I remember actually going out to a lot of investors that maybe rejected us in the early days, and I'm like, I get it. Like, I didn't get it at the time why you did, like why some investors stay away from first time founders. I think a first time founder wins all day in enthusiasm and just over the top optimism, right? Just so excited and that relentless. But so much more. Like a couple of years in, um, if from my point of view, it was um, how to quickly move off things was not something I was aware of in the early days. Um, and I think not being afraid to move past something that maybe isn't working early to pivot. Um,
Good for you.
that's from my point of view.
That's a
Yeah.
good one. I also feel like I've learned that one. Um, I would say not being as scared to go and talk to the industry. I think there's so many early founders that are afraid to talk to their customers. And we spent last year really digging in with our customers to understand their problems. And as a result, like our product is that much better. Being able to step out into industry, we're able to, get to what our customers' pain point is that much faster. Um, so yeah, just not being scared to go and have conversations with industry. And part of that starts with literally attending events and being like, the awkward person in the room who doesn't know anyone yet. Because in 2, 3, 4 events, you'll know everyone and it won't be as scary.
It's a reunion at that point too.
Totally.
It's fun, right? Actually, some of my favorite events to go to are the ones I've never been to before, because it continues to get you to step outside your comfort zone and go up to random people and introduce yourself, and now you have a network there. But I'm curious, you know, how do you? A lot of people struggle with this part too, right? As founders, how do you move past what's good feedback and what's like, I appreciate you saying this, but this is not something that gets like, you probably hear some feedback from people, or when you're having these conversations with these companies, that's great feedback, but it's not action. Like, I think there's a distinct difference between actionable feedback and just general feedback on what's happening. Do you get that sense as well, where it's like, we're going to implement this into what we're building, and this is like good to know, but we're not going to do anything with it?
So and maybe you've experienced this as well, but through the founder journey, the entrepreneur journey, what I've learned to do more than anything is trust my own intuition. My own intuition got me here. And um, when I hear feedback and I go, heck yeah, that's something I want to go and implement. And I hear feedback and I go, mm, that one's not jiving with me. It honestly has just been practicing listening to my intuition and really, really having a good relationship with what feels good and what doesn't. And early stage founders should be really tied to their gut instinct because their gut instinct got them to where they are. I think as you grow as an organization, that becomes less and less something that you can do. I think you need to be a little more data driven then. But yeah, I would say intuition through and through.
I feel the same way. The amount of when you look at if you charted your mistakes you've made over the last couple of years and you looked at the ones that were made off of data or made off of gut instincts, it is like
So
your
obvious.
mistakes are substantially lower though on the ones that you trusted your gut and didn't go off the data. That's why sometimes there's certain entrepreneurs that don't succeed is because they're just all about the data. And if the data doesn't, well, we followed the data, why didn't it work out? it, it's so weird. Like you even listen to old Steve Jobs quotes and all this stuff, right? Like you just have to trust in something, yourself, like that it is going to work out and that you're on the right path, or why would you be doing it in the first place, right? Okay, it's good to know that there's everyone I've talked to has that same, like every entrepreneur has that same kind of mentality. You take the advice, sure, but at the end of the day, you need to make your own gut decisions because that's what's going to succeed.
Well, and I think, early on you might feel like if I don't take this person's advice, they'll be insulted or whatever. Who cares? They want to give you, they want to see you succeed. There's a reason why they're giving you advice. If you succeed off their advice, great, but if not, then it's not something they're going to lose sleep over, so don't lose sleep over it yourself.
That's great feedback. Yeah, it's and I also, I guess another thing that I wish I knew is like, some things are going to happen every day and you don't sweat the small stuff because in like the small stuff might be substantial in a week, but over the course of like building a business over 2, 3, 4, 5+ years, it won't it does nothing, right? It's just a little blip that you're going to move past and forget in a couple days. Um, yeah, you can't, and you can't please everyone. No matter how good the product or service is, you're gonna ultimately there will be churn. There will be people that decide to leave that you can't do anything to affect. Those are kind of like two or three things from my end. Um, what excites you about kind of what's next? Obviously, you've been doing this for a few years. You have lots more data, right? You have all the feedback. You have your still your own tuition. What excites you about what's next for Mercator?
Oh, this move into the States is huge for us. Honestly, being able to be down in Texas and meeting folks that instantly get what we do and understand the value is huge. Um, I always like to talk about how, as a founder, you end up being, it's like you're an expert by Friday, and by Monday, you're a noob again. And I feel that this next journey for us to understand kind of our sales motions and our go to market motions, it's exciting. It's a new chapter. I get to learn how to be, an SDR and an AE and a sales manager. And, I get to understand, how do we optimize our customer success flow? There's so many cool aspects of business that I just get to be a part of from like a larger perspective. I'm really excited about growth in the States, for us to be able to start opening up new geographical markets, selling into new customer bases, and really starting to see this thing grow. That will really help to fuel kind of the next parts of our product suite that we're developing, right? Like for us, kind of lead generation or early project detection is only one step in a much larger path that we're on, which is pretty exciting when we think about what we can do with the data that we have, especially because we create so much of it ourselves. And it's such amazing granular data when it comes to describing activity in construction space. Um, to be able to do pre-qualification tools, marketing tools, strategic planning tools, start trending, building better reports on industry that are real time. All of that, I think, is the kind of the next exciting step for us past just geographical expansion.
I'm so excited for you. That is awesome. You'll have to let me know when you're in Florida.
Oh, that's next.
That's where I live now.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
okay. That's good to know. I mean, makes sense. There's every single day, like just walking down my road, there's got to be 5, 6 construction projects going on at once. And with some of the big national firms that you always hear about, but then also a lot of the local ones. I think the cool part when there's all these projects going on, maybe some projects that even like the mid-size and small firms would never get, they're getting because like the big project, they can't just take on everything, right? Which is really exciting. And it's kind of cool to see whose buildings are going up like first and how they're different. And um, I've had fun just walking around town and kind of seeing. I think that's the coolest part. One of the coolest parts about the construction, real estate, like space in general, right? Is you can actually walk around and see what's happening in the industry versus everything else, like other industries. You can't always see it.
No, and I mean, like, in the early days in marketing and advertising, I mean, that was the big thing, right? Seeing your billboard up, right? So I definitely, it's funny, I didn't realize that this was something that it wasn't just what my dad did when I was a kid, which was point out all the buildings that he's worked on. This is something that's universal, and it's a thing that's really endeared me to the construction industry is just how much pride, frankly, everyone has about what they're building, and how much their identity is really tied to it. And I think that that's, yeah, I am thoroughly in love with this industry. It's such a fascinating one.
Yeah, growing up, I heard my father was he was in the or he still is. He's in the laborers union up in up north in Boston, and it's kind of cool to hear every time there's a building or we went in a building to hear the original story about like when that was getting set up, like how they did this or and you're right. Like everyone I've met in the construction space, they could tell you if you blindfolded them and then you walked into a building, they can tell you that they worked on that building, what it's like. It's like everyone in the construction space has a photographic memory on the jobs that they they worked on and what happened and every instance and funny story. And I think it goes to your point. It's like they do have so much pride for what they're working on and building and how they were a part of it. You don't necessarily get that in every industry. Um, you won't have necessarily a software developer that recognizes every software that they've built and why they were so excited to build it, right? Sometimes it's I like that. I'm glad that you have that experience too. Um, Chloe, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation here today, which makes me think two things. We need to do it again. And maybe we get you as a guest host sometime where you can host an episode.
Oh, that would be lovely. I'd love to do that.
You have the mic, you have the voice. Those are the two checks. So
Appreciate it.
we'll talk about that. But thanks so much, Chloe. Wishing you and the Mercator team all the best of luck, and please keep us updated.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for having me today.